was the summer of 2014, and for my son's bar mitzvah present, just like many Jewish parents, we wanted him to bond with the Holy Land. Oh, it worked perhaps too well. My husband had stayed back at the hotel, and our friends, my son and I, had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie, please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom! Boom! I hear and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
That's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. There is no chapter in a parenting book on what to do when a war starts and you're on a family vacation. Think touring extraordinary and sacred sites mixed with cowering in bomb shelters. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The impact of being human targets helped me understand the plight of Israelis living like this, and it also made me want to work on peace. How Israel is often described on the news is not what I'd seen with my own eyes. And I felt Palestinian parents also preferred their children playing safely in their backyards. The missiles exploded just near enough to blow apart my world as I knew it, forever changing me. And you'd never recognize my life today with what it was like then. I believe I found my life's purpose. Hello. I'm Penny ST, and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. Before we get started, let's take a moment to acknowledge what's happening in Ukraine. We hope that the violence will soon stop and that their people will be able to live in safety and peace. Amen. Today we'll be speaking with Jamal Alkirnawi, the founder and executive director of A New Dawn in the Negev. The organization is a manifestation of Jamal's desire to raise the level of education for the Bedouin community in Israel's Negev region. According to government reports, the Bedouin population of the Negev is the poorest sector in Israel, suffering from a lack of infrastructure and quality education. Bedouins are also the youngest population in Israel. 80% of the Bedouin community are under age 16. A New Dawn in the Negev is an Arab Jewish community development organization based in Rahat, Israel, where they promote education, employment, and leadership. They work together with other NGOs to promote unity, peace, and understanding. They have many creative programs between Jewish Israelis and the Bedouin community, concentrating on educational, cultural, and international activities, including partnerships between Israeli towns and Bedouin villages, emphasizing support for schools and innovative programming, which we'll discuss shortly. Jamal's deep experience in the field sources from his bachelor's degree in public health administration and 2 graduate degrees, a Master of Social Work from McGill University in Canada with a specialization in peace building and civil society, and a Mandel MBA in social leadership from Ben Gurion University of the Negev. A social activist since youth, Jamal is a son of Rahat, who rose through the university system, integrating his own experiences and successes to become the academic counselor for Arab students at Ben Gurion University. Jamal believes that the key to Rahat's development is through superior education. A high quality of education will prevent the city's high dropout rate and lessen the risky behaviors practiced by Bedouin youth, teaching them to become responsible, ethical, and committed citizens. A New Dawn is committed to this ideal through all of its programs and believes that it should be the highest public priority. For his innovative work in the community, Jamal was recognized in 2014 by the Rahat Kopp Chase Rashi Award for entrepreneurship in social work. Speaking with Jamal in our pre-interview session, I was deeply moved and inspired by his passion and the originality of their programs. So let's get started hearing more details about their organization. Welcome, Jamal.
Welcome to you, and thank you so much for the great opportunity to be here with you.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here. First, I'd like to get started showing a video of your organization to get a feel for the important work that you're doing.
In Rahat, the largest Bedouin city in the world, the Bedouin community is undergoing a process of modernization. 60% of the population is under the age of 18, largely from the low socioeconomic background. 35% of the youth drop out of the school as they are pressured to work to support their families. In this city of children, hardship is a part of the daily routine, and UDON in the Negev aims to change this reality by providing support for the Bedouin youth to direct a future change.
My name is Jamal Alkirnawi. I am a social worker, I am activist, I'm the founder and the executive director of the organization and UDON in the Negev that works in the Bedouin community in three elements: education, employment, and leadership.
Providing extracurricular activities for youth at risk, closing the gap between Bedouin and Jewish Israelis. At a new dawn, it's important to work together to adapt to a new way of life, supporting one another and becoming equal partners to lead the better future.
The expression that I know, it's an African expression. If you want to get fast, you should go by yourself. And if you want to get farther, we need to be together, all together, for better chances and future for our Bedouin kids.
Jamal, you founded a New Dawn in the Negev in 2009. Can you tell us more about why you did?
Yes, I founded the New Dawn organization in 2009, where I just observe and I see how the struggle and the needs of the Bedouin community, especially for the young generation. I worked, as we discussed before, like I worked as an academic counselor for Arab students at Ben Gurion University, and I have seen the Arab Bedouin students, how they struggle in the beginning when they get to the Beersheba, the biggest Jewish town, studying at the university. And it shows to me clearly about the failure of the Bedouin schools. And of course, they were struggle for lacking of learning or speaking Hebrew language, lacking of the struggles with their surrounding, the new surrounding. And of course, I observe all of those needs for the young generation who are trying the cream of the cream, who get the colleges and universities in Israel, and they were shocked in the beginning, in the first time. And I realized that the inequality that exists in the education system, it cannot be achieved when we when they get into the university stage or age. And I decided, of course, to build up a grassroots organization to work from the bottom up in the educational system, to develop the education system, and to have better chances for those young generation to get integrated within the Israeli society. For me, this is why I observe all those needs that should be done not just to wait until probably the cream of the cream who get to the colleges at the universities or colleges in Israel.
Well, I always like to find out how the people I interview became peace activists, so I'd like to ask some personal questions. What was it like growing up in Rahat?
Look, Rahat is today it's a big town. It's almost around 70,000 people who lives in Rahat. As we know, over 60% of the Bedouin population are under the age of 18. Rahat is, of course, it's I would consider it, or I was maybe describe it as a small bubble. Of course, we as in Israel in general, we have many bubbles in general, and of course it's a small bubble. People would not are living, but of course they would not know about the outside world. Of course, the people who lives in Rahat, they were also divided, or they lived by neighborhoods and tribes, and from earlier ages they have lacking of connection with the outside world. And I think in my case, I have been asking questions, many internal questions that I went through. To answer those questions, I just went away from Rahat in order to understand better what is the life, what is the meaning of life, what I should be. And I'm always thinking about the people who are not having the opportunity to be nomadic, and they are still living on the same places. And this is like my heart with them, my heart with those people who don't have any opportunity to move around and to ask questions and maybe to search for answers. And this is the case of mine, where I discovered in earlier age that I need to get out of Rahat to search my own answers about who I am, about the way that I want to see the world, and the way how I could discover and to answer by myself those answers who I never get those answers in Rahat, in the town where I grew up.
Do you still live in Rahat today?
Yes, I mean, I did my big journey since earlier ages, as I said, from the high school. I just came back on the age of 30 to be activist and to take and to do a social work and to do entrepreneurship and to help and to create a better, and to build up programs on those ages. I mean, I from 30 up to today, I full committed to the work that I'm doing for the creating programs and building, organizing the community, developing the community. I think this is where my heart is there, and this is what I'm really doing. And not just in that, I also work with many other Bedouin villages surrounding.
What language do you speak?
I speak 3 languages. Arabic is my mother language, Hebrew language fluently, and as well as English.
You had such an interesting time when you were growing up. You described to me some impactful times in your life as you were growing up. For instance, the visit, I think you were in 9th grade when Rehovot, the Jewish Israeli town, came to visit in Rahat. Can you talk about that?
Yes, I mean, this was my first opportunity, I think in 9th grade, where we don't have any options before that to meet with our colleagues or even to meet in person, which I mean in the Jewish people who are living around us. And I think this was, for us, it's made all of us, not just me, all my classmates, they made our curiosity become very high. And I think it's something that we didn't have it before. And of course, meeting the persons in the Jewish students in person, it makes it us very happy and makes it us also to discover the other. We are all a human being, and we are all social human being, I would say, and we're all curious about others. And I think it was lucky to meet my colleague who I asked to invite him to our home to have a lunch. And of course, and he was like wearing glasses as I wear in the first student to wear glasses. We share kind of similarities together. And while after the lunch is ended, we were having a small talk. My Hebrew was very little at that time. And I asked him, he asked me, what did you do, Jamal, after school? I said nothing. Like we going to the school, and after the school, we're staying at home. And I asked him back with my little Hebrew, what did you do after the school? And he just mentioned to me he was the head of the student council in Rahat. And I asked what that's mean, what that's the head of the student council and it means to you. And he started to explain to me some expressions where I never know before. And then by the end of his speech, he gives me the phone number of the Ministry of Education, that the one who's responsible.
I'm sorry, some expressions such as what? That you hadn't heard before?
I think elections, democratic, class representative, gathering together, meetings, topics that they are doing, and such and such. I think for me, those expressions was totally new. And of course, from that meeting, I had the phone number of this Ministry of Education office. And of course, it took me 2 weeks, and I picked the phone. I took the courage and I called the Ministry of Education. And once in the minute they asked me who I am, I just said, I am the head of the Student Council of Rahat School. And then this has become story that
there was no such thing, right, at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not of course, like it's really something new. And then I started to have an invitations for getting seminars and so on. And I think from 9th grade, was my only way to get out of Rahat and to search about those questions that I mentioned before, about who I am and what I'm doing here and how I could make things in a better way.
So this was your first stirrings being a peace activist. Can you talk a little bit more about your journey becoming a peace activist? It's really interesting.
I think it's as I said, it's searching about and finding connections, like how to say, it's like searching about answers, which, as I mentioned before, we live in a bubble, small bubble, I would mention, and we never have a chance to discover more questions about why we live in a small bubble, why we don't have connections with other bubbles, why we just observe and we see the other communities just in the TV at my time, and we don't have any connection. I think those are the most questions for mine when I was like young teenager. Also to much more like to understand better as a Bedouin living in Israel, which is a minority among majority Jewish Israelis, and what our roles as a minority, what's our responsibilities, what is our commitment, how could be improving the relationship between the majority minority groups. And I think this is where I think I made the way for like being working on this field of and developing also programs as well.
Can you talk about the disparity between the two groups? What you saw as far as the Israeli communities there versus Rahat, and how you felt that there was such a disparity between the two societies?
I think like we first of all, like we live in the same, like in small state And of course, there are probably differences between the two communities because of the lack of connections. And I think those lack of connection that gives us being alone with ourselves or being segregated with ourselves. And I think it's like an important to mention that we didn't know much about them, and of course they didn't know nothing about us. And those segregation, it makes it more difficult for to know a little bit, or not knowing anything. It makes it much more difficult. And I think our role is trying to bring those knowledge, not just to talk about they and us, trying to talk about all together to find the ways how we could really reduce those differences between us in order to get or to move forward.
How would you describe a new dawn in the Negev?
A new dawn organization, it's like a Bedouin Jewish organization where we are all elaborating, or we already worked for a new dawn mostly over 12 years nowadays. And it's like we promote education, employments, leadership opportunities for Bedouin youth and young adults. And our goal, our achievement, our mission is to bring those young adults to become an active and taking a responsibility and engaged with the society of Israel.
Can you describe the Bedouin culture of the Negev? I don't think a lot of people are familiar with that.
I think they are a wonderful, a beautiful Bedouin culture, especially with the hospitality, with the warm hearts, the invitations, the great hosting. I think this is the caring one another. Although nowadays we are observing the changing of the society, like the whole collective families and tribe. It's like nothing to compare as in the past because of the whole modernization and urbanization and the whole differences. But I mean, it's a very beautiful culture where people get gathering together, but people really love to host each other. People love the desert, love being outside, growing their own agriculture, and I think it's a beautiful.
Then it was traditionally it was nomadic culture.
Yes, I mean the Bedouin, it's a way of living. Like if it's Bedouin is the word Bedouin is taken by the name of Badia in Arabic, which means desert. The people who live in the desert, they would consider Bedouin. But there is no problem with people who could be even Christian or anyone or indigenous or any people who could handle the difficulties and the challenges with the desert, living in the desert. I mean, this is the way that the way of living of how do you handle the challenges of living in the desert. I think this is considered Bedouin.
And they live in Israel proper, not in the territories, and they participate in the military as well, I understand, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
some of them, yes. Some of them, yes.
Yeah. Are they Muslim? The majority?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
And can you talk about the separation between the boys and the girls and why that is? Like in school? It's part of the Muslim religion, correct?
No, actually, we live in Israel, and we don't have this separation actually between Bedouins and girls together. I think the school system is more integrated and more like working together both, like,
Oh,
and yeah, in the school system, which is,
so the boys and girls are in the same classrooms?
yes, yes,
Oh,
don't have any separation. Yeah.
oh, I misunderstood. Okay. So in Israel, Arabs and Jewish Israelis live next to one another, but often there isn't any interaction. And yet in your programs, the Jewish Israelis and the Bedouins work together. Can you describe the Bedouin and Israeli towns that you work with?
We worked in the whole Bedouin villages in the Negev, and we worked with also Jewish towns and villages surrounding us on the Negev area. We are actually focusing in the Negev area in the organization. I think I want just to mention that, of course, like, this is why we exist as an organization. Our cause is trying to bring the connections, not the separation, and to break those isolation and segregation between those communities. and also we have a lot to do with their sorry with the education programs, that we want to bring the two communities together to discuss issues, and maybe to have opportunities to meet together, to exchange ideas, and to have a new expression, and to have also the opportunity to move and to be nomadic, not to stuck on the small bubbles, whether Jewish bubbles or Bedouin bubbles.
In your programs, do you also get to work with the parents of the kids?
Of course, yes. Our parents, they are one of those tools, the important tools to get them involved in our programs. Otherwise, our program would not be successful so much. I think taking the initiatives and bringing those parents along with the ceremonies that we established for the youth, or we giving certificates, or of course we invite them to those ceremonies for awards, and to see how the youth develop, how their youth develop. I think this is very much important role, and I think it's important for the parents to see that we are looking after their youth as well.
Yes. Well, next I'd like to go into your various programs. So let's first talk about Secure Future for Youth, which I know is one of your primary programs that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, the Secure Program Youth is it's a program where we actually try to take youth from between the 15 years old to 18 years old, and who are actually dropping out of the school. And we know that about 35% of those young generation dropping out of the school system. Where they are they in the roads, on the families? They are not doing anything in their lives. Our role is to take them and to build for them a youth club, providing them courses, improving them, like providing them a safe space, personal tutoring, vocational trainings. And also we have many workshops for them to help them to integrate and to become and to build up their future. And this is what is from the name, Secure Future, how they want to see themselves, how we could help them in their futures. This is what it's all about. And we have thousands of those young leaders who we help, and nowadays are the leaders of today and of tomorrow as well.
Awesome. Next, you had a Youth at Risk conference. Can you tell us what that was about?
We always bringing on the table this expression of youth at risk, Bedouin youth at risk, what it looks like, how we could do more, what impact we did, and how we could improve it, what the things what the challenges are, and what the things are that we didn't succeed in developing those. I think those are the questions, or always we are putting on our eyes to always asking the question and to evaluate our work and to bring to those table municipality leaders, business sectors, and also civil society and activists to hear those stories from their first hand from those youth, what they think about the programs and how they think about their future and what should be done in order to bring much more bigger scale of those youth to help them.
You have an incredible program called the Emotional First Aid Hotline that you had historically was helping different people, but then because of COVID, it really got very well used. Can you talk about the history of the hotline as well as what it used to be used for, but then in COVID, how you were able to really help people during COVID?
Absolutely. Was the very difficult time for all of us here. I think being an uncertain time with the pandemic, which no one knows any information about this pandemic. And we observed the need of the community, that they have a mental, of course, like we observed how the need, like for supporting this community through the COVID, what they're gonna do, how they could support them. They have many questions, many information that runs in this COVID. And of course, we support that by providing an emotional first aid, by having volunteers to hold the phones and to asking them what they're gonna do, how they could behave through this pandemic, what can be done in order to help them, to make them calm down and to make them relax, especially mothers and women and old women who are very stressful at that time. And I think it was very important services that we developed through the years. And I think many people use this phone and many volunteers have picking the phones. And I think we just thank all of those volunteers who are really having this services for the community. And of course, many people were with the lockdown, many people asked for also help for like food or for other stuff. I think those are very important things that we're supposed to say.
And these services were available in Arabic, obviously.
Absolutely, in Arabic.
Can you talk about, the fact that Israelis speak Hebrew and Arabs and Bedouins speak Arabic, and often they don't speak the same language, and the impact that has on communities, as well as what you've done in your organization to try to improve that situation?
I think Bedouins are supposed to study Hebrew from the 3rd grades until 12th grades.
Mm-hmm.
In the Jewish society, there's Arabic is like optional. They could study it around 9th or 10th grades, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is important to mention that already we have imbalance between the two languages that already exist. And of course, add to that the failure of educational school, which is not really worked so much with those students. Or, for example, the Hebrew teachers are Bedouin, they are not Jewish from from the Jewish sector, which is supposed to be like you have a Bedouins who teach Bedouins or / Arabs teachers who taught Hebrew language, and it's very different from the one who could have the mother tongue, specific like teaching on the mother tongue language. And those are I think the differences between the two societies, we have like the differences in the languages. And we observe today the youth or the young generation, because of the media and the social media, they go for the easiest part of like, they are not investing any energy for learning more what we taught in the school, especially in the Hebrew. And this is one of the reasons we have Bedouins who graduated in 12 grades, but probably they would not have any words to speak because they are not making any practice with the language. And vice versa, the Jewish people who would not know any Arabic. And this is why they have this kind of complexity. And in our organization, we try to work hard, and we have many classes in Hebrew, teaching Bedouins in Hebrew, runs by Jewish people or their mother tongue. And I think, and providing also programs that provide connections between neighbors and young adults to meet each other and to have a chances to make a practice what they have learned in order to solve the problem of Hebrew and Arabic. In our dreams, we both societies need to be learning both languages from earlier ages, not from the 3rd grade and not either from the 10th grade. We need to study since we born 2 languages as equal as much as possible, and to be part with all of that, and to bring also the diversity that we have and to share it with our school system.
Okay, and next I'd like to talk about your great program, the Serap Strings of Change. Can you tell us about this wonderful kids program?
Yeah, we started the program Serap since 2014, which we realized that young people are, they didn't have any opportunity to study music and arts, and they are not deserved to study music and art, while we realized that they are studying Hebrew, mathematics, Arabic, but they are not, the schools are not investing on those elements of art and music. And once we realized that young generation in elementary schools who are not having these opportunities, we just took by ourselves and we just provide those programs for the schools. And I think we give them opportunity not just to study mathematics and Hebrew or Arabic, but also to study music and art that open their hearts, open their mind, that feel connections, that they belong to the world. And I think it's art of peace, that what is happening in the school system. I think we just love this program, and really, we increase it, and we want really to increase it for many schools as well.
Where do they get the opportunity to play? Are these
we provide a teacher, we provide Jewish teachers from surrounding villages and towns in the Negev, and we enter them, we succeed to enter them to the school system, and they taught them musical programs, and I think they have an opportunity. We also help them to buy instruments, or like we help them to bring the instrument to the schools. I think this is very new and very beautiful, not just music, but also art as well.
Yes, but art classes as well?
Yes, art classes as well, absolutely.
And then don't they share the art with different schools, or
absolutely?
Can you talk about that?
This is where we like our connections. For example, in Rahat, we don't have a conservatory, but or we tried in the beginning, like in 2014 was not a there's no conservatory in Rahat. We took the students to the conservatory in Beersheba. And it was also an opening eyes for those kids and their families, not just for the kids themselves, but also for their families, to learn about this kind of building, what the name of conservatory means. A lot of Bedouins was not aware of the word conservatory, because this word was not exist in their menu. And of course, after we started this program, we are very grateful and happy to, from 2014 up to 2000, I think 19, where the municipalities, Bedouin municipalities, started to bring this conservatory, or to build up conservatory along with the community centers from those Bedouin villages. And we were happy for that, because before that was not exist this word.
Well, didn't they have the opportunity to also to perform there? And
Absolutely, yes, yes, we do. We are providing, we're giving them, of course. We're showing them all the places that we could.
And the art, aren't there schools that each that your communities share with Israeli, the Jewish
Absolutely,
Israeli
absolutely.
communities
Yes,
in
we have.
Beersheba? And can you talk a little bit about the art? Some
Yeah,
of
we have
seeing the
galleries.
kids share their art with each other, just it was so
Absolutely, we have
lovely.
many. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is the warming heart when we create a program, and really we feel like how what the power of the program, not the power of us, the power of the program does for bringing the two communities connected together, for sharing their knowledge, sharing their experiences, sharing their work. And also we have many galleries that we developed, or art galleries that we just like started on Rahat and ended by the Museum of Tel Aviv. Or I think this is something like, it's an amazing
How
options.
wonderful. How wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you talk about, you've talked a bit about the kids' reactions to, and your reactions growing up, seeing the differences and the opportunities on the Jewish Israeli side. Can you talk about the reactions you've heard from the Israeli Jewish side, the kids over there, and working with the Bedouin children? What have they talked about? Anything that surprised them, or what has been their reaction?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's opening eyes, I would mention. As I said before, we live in very different places. We don't have a chances to get together, to know each other, to meet each other, and to talk to each other. And I think those reactions we observe with the youth, with the young students. I think the students and the young generation, they have no borders. There is no, they have their words very beautiful, free with many things. If we could give them the great places and the safety places to be. And I think we observe and we see how those young kids changing their families' perceptions and families' behaviors, one towards the another. When the kids meet each other, you would see in the beginning probably curiosity more, and then after 2 minutes or 5 or 12 minutes or 20 minutes, they become friends, talking, laughing, they sharing music, they share language together. They have like a lot of commonalities, and actually it's warmed our heart as an adult. I think in my last sentences, I would say, I think we are the adults who makes it difficult for the young generation to be together. We are the adults who deal with our fears. Our fears would not let us to move ahead because we have so much fear about who, about they, about us, about them. Those kind of questions that really exist, and this is like limited us to have this opportunities.
You've talked about your friendship that you had with when you were in ninth grade, and that you learned with the other Jewish Israeli. Have you heard any stories from the alumni of the kids with these associations of friendships and so on? Have you heard any
Yes,
stories about
absolutely. Always it's warming my heart. People, I'm always amazed to hear and to see the young generation remembering everything, remembering the organization's leader, remembering the people who runs the program, remembering the small details who, in my age, I got forgot. And when I met them accidentally in the roads or on the street, I met some people they remind me those stories, beautiful stories. After the program we ended, we met together on the Beersheba. Or after the program was ended, the German Jewish Israelis, when they met together, they also traveled to each other's, to travel to German, or Germans come again to visit those young generation without letting me know. But I mean, it's warming my heart, like to hear, absolutely, to hear the connection and
we'll talk about that program as well soon.
The continuity of those, of like the connections. I could not measure what is like the outcome. I mean, I'm providing opportunities, but I knew the opportunities that I provide, it makes it a great impact in the long term. People get to know each other, people become friends, people meet each other, people are still in touch with each other without being even knowing, which is
fantastic. Fantastic. So let's now move on to the next great program. You have so many. The Explore Rahat Cultural Tourism. Can you talk about who participates and what the purpose of this particular tourism opportunity is?
I think this program is more about providing opportunities for the people to discover and to learn about our Bedouin culture opportunity. We have trained many Bedouin women, especially for hosting, how to host, how to open their houses, how to lead groups from inside of Israel, outside of Israel, the groups who would know, who would come to learn about the Bedouin culture. And we become pioneer for bringing those activity for the for not just explore the Bedouin culture. And many people would not know about Bedouin culture unless you invite them to come to have a tradition, way of listening, hearing, eating the Bedouin food, enjoying the Bedouin food, and also hearing the stories and living in the same houses, being in the same culture and understanding. And this is one of those programs who get the people options, opportunities to be close to each other and to be empathize with themselves and with others as well.
So also you're providing jobs for these women by doing this?
Absolutely. It's part of giving opportunities for economic opportunities for Bedouin women to raise.
And can you give some examples of the types of trips that the women will take the participants on, and who is participating, who is coming to take these trips?
First, people comes from inside of Israel, youth, outside, from the north, from the south, from the center. People were coming, groups or individuals or any kind of groups who would love to hear about the Bedouin culture, about the opportunities, about the challenges of the Bedouin community in the Negev. And those women who are opening their houses and they provide food, Bedouin food, and they provide their stories. I think what we have on the Bedouin community is the stories, the personal stories of those young
women in shopping, women in shopping.
And not just, and women's stories as well.
Yeah.
Like women who made their lives, who made their who made the big differences within themselves, within their lives, and to now become their leaders. They have the stories to tell us, all of us, also as a Bedouin, to tell us, or tell me, to tell you, to tell everyone who want to hear those stories, how people overcome those obstacles and like trying to take action in their lives and to become involved and to become more aware and also to become more independent economically, which is amazing.
That's fabulous. Now let's talk about your program, which is so fantastic that actually got, you alluded to it before, but gets the even German youth involved. Can you talk about the different participants and what the German youth exchange is all about, please?
Yes, I mean, we provide generally opportunities from not just in Germany, but from the global, from Europe opportunities. We are providing, we took those opportunities, we provide them for the Bedouin youth and our also Jewish local towns here. We believe that people deserve to take this option and opportunities. One of them was like the German exchange youth. And we have kind of building up, we built a program to have a discussions or a discourse between German Israeli discourse and German Israeli and also like a Bedouin dialogue between also like the German partner become the third party to open up a dialogue between Jewish and Bedouins together. And I think
you also, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and the participants were, we choose the participants from Bedouin school and Jewish schools. And of course, they're supposed to invite or to host for a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks, some of those exchanges that we did here in Israel in each houses. And we have a program that they have dialogue programs. And after the first trip in Israel ended, all the group, of course, being invited in a German village or town, and we have those kind of discussions. And I think those are opportunities where makes a big difference in their lives of the youth who participate in such a program.
But the student, sorry.
Yeah, because they, first of all, it was in a dialogue, they open to dialogue that we never had in any school. They are traveling together, they know each other better. And of course, the families get involved. The journey is outside of Israel and the journey in Israel, what we look in Israel, how we would present Israel, how we would describe Israel in front of Germans, and what is the relationship between Bedouins and Jewish in front of Germans colleagues. I think those are many, many important questions.
But one of the important topics is the fact that you're visiting Germany, the Holocaust
yes.
museums and the concentration camps, and there's a lot of unfortunately there is some denial about the Holocaust in Arab communities sometimes, and the revelation of that and the opportunity of the Jewish students and the Bedouin students and the German students all to share the experience. Can you talk about some of the reactions of the Bedouin students to, for instance, seeing a concentration camp? I mean, is this the first time that they've heard about this situation, or do they learn about it in school? Or
yes, this is like the most important part. Sorry for like, I mean, was the most important part where the Bedouin student will never have any options to discuss about the Holocaust history, and also to have, I think we were privileged to brought to the table this topic for the Bedouin, where most of the students were like shocked that they don't know anything about this topic before. And of course, this is something very new for them. And of course, I would not say, I mean, also for both, for the German, for visiting Yad Vashem, and along with Bedouins and Jews together in Jerusalem, the Museum of Yad Vashem, and also like to visit some memorial in Germany, to have the journey and to talk about the history, about the past. How could we remember the past, remembering, and also not just remembering, but also doing for this disaster, or like this genocide would not happen again.
Yeah, I would imagine it's very, very impactful and moving for everyone involved. Just hearing
Absolutely.
about it, it's impactful. So, now let's move on to a lighter subject. The women's photography. This is our last project that we'll talk about. You have so many, but can we talk about the women's photography course that you teach?
Yeah, we believe on photography as a key of expressing their feeling, their the way that we could resolve conflicts, using the power of the photo in having a dialogue. And I think this is the main idea of the project, where we bring young Bedouin women who would study photography and how they could present themselves, present their photos, making their gallery, bringing their stories along with the photo. And I think it's just a new approach for like not just having a new skills, but having the power of the program, or the power of the photography, that bringing people for a dialogue, and having the opportunity to talk about the identity, the growing, the surrounding, and what the pictures means for all of us here, and to share it in the public as well.
Do you have events where you share the photographs?
Yes, absolutely. We made in the past years a huge gallery, that our gallery started on Rahat, and also, as I said, ended in the Museum of Tel Aviv, and those kind of those photographic, and the students have the opportunity to present their work, and each of those young Bedouin who participated, they spoke about their picture, why they choose it, what that's mean for her. I mean, it's a big history and big story about why. I mean, it's just really moving our hearts for like listening to them.
So with all of these incredible projects that you've had, what could you tell us, like 3 of your favorite accomplishments that you've had in your organization?
I think we are so happy to see the young, as I said, the young generation who I met accidentally on the roads, on the street, and when I ask them about what they are doing, they're doing very meaningful work, and they are involved with the community. I think this is the thousands of students who we touch through the years. I think this makes me very satisfied and very happy, and we are in the right directions. And of course, that we did a lot, and we create a lot, but things should be also there is a long way to go, I would say, in this work.
Right. Does the Israeli government provide any funding or anything for you?
Yes, some offices. We have connection with the Ministry of Education. We have some other offices, of course.
And who? Sorry.
Yeah.
And your other supporters?
We have individual support. We have foundations who support us, and we really like and inviting through this opportunity with you to thank all our supporters who believe in us, who believe in our cause, in our mission, and I think who also we also call anyone who would like to be partner or to be supporting our programs, because without you we could not do anything, and with you we can do more, of course, to continue with the journey of social change and really bringing the two communities together and helping like us two community to become more powerful in our beautiful space or beautiful land that we exist here.
And your leadership of New Dawn in the Negev, you're made up of Bedouins and Jewish Israelis, and who all runs the organization?
Who runs? Or I think
Yeah.
our leadership organization is based on the people themselves, right, that we support them. I mean and I think this is important. Our constituents. I think those are our leaders that we help, and we have many around me and with me who support the organization and makes the organization function even with the tough time through the COVID, the pandemic, and of course, like we still exist and we still have long way to go from where we are now as a 12 years organization, what we accomplished, and we still have the ambitions to continue and to make a great impact in our societies.
Speaking of tough times, besides COVID, in May, of course, there were a lot of bad situations, and even now there seemed to be a lot of violence going on. Did that impact your organization?
Yes, I think it's not impacted our organization, but it was huge, important lessons for us to learn about what was happened, how it's happened, what the needs of the new generation demand, how we could maybe help them and where they are. And nowadays, according to that, we opened and we create programs for reducing the radicalizations among young teenagers, both Bedouin and Jewish, through the social media. We realize that social media has power more than us, and we need to bring opening eyes for those young generation, how to work with this topic, how they could maybe knowing about this topic, how they could learn about freedom of speech and also democratic, and also like to learn about and other instruments, what the difference is between those kind of element of values of democratic and other values.
So what are your next goals that you want to achieve?
I think to do much more, I would say, to do much more, to make impact in our society, to help our youth to be integrated, to bring opportunities for the youth, to bring our shared society, our people to get together, because we just together become powerful and we become strong. And there is no way that we are not trying to work together in order to make our place beautiful and important, and also like our world is there is a needs that supposed to be done, or we should do it together.
Very good, very good. Thanks so much, Jamal, for giving us your time today and for the inspiring and creative work that you do in bringing together Bedouins and Israelis to work on peace. Next week on April 5th, we'll be speaking with Steve Collishman of Citizen Diplomacy Initiatives, who over many years has been responsible for helping create many significant multi-city relationships with U.S. cities in the Middle East, Russia, Poland, Nicaragua, Turkey, and Haiti. We'll be concentrating on those in the Middle East, especially with the relationships between Israelis and those in the Palestinian territories and Jordan. By pairing Israeli, Palestinian, and Jordanian cities together with a U.S. city in a multilateral sister city relationship, a platform for dialogue, participation, and citizen diplomacy is created that helps foster permanent relationships between the cities. And as they work on mutually beneficial, substantial, and creative programs, peace becomes a possibility. We hope you'll join us, and for now, we'll leave you as we pray that everyone will someday live in peace, shalom, and salam.